The morning sky above New York blazed with unusual colors as alien ships broke through Earth's atmosphere. Commander Robert Hayes stood at the Pentagon's command center, his weathered face illuminated by the red warning lights flashing across every screen. At 53 years old, he had seen his share of conflicts, but nothing like this. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," called out Officer Karen Mills, her fingers flying across the communication panel. The message that came through was simple and terrifying. "Your planet is now under the protection of the Galactic Order. Resist and face extinction. Submit and survive." The aliens called themselves the Zentari. They looked almost human, except for their silvery skin and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner purple light. Their ambassador, appearing on screens worldwide, spoke perfect English through their translation technology. "We bring civilization to primitive worlds," the Zentari ambassador announced. "Earth will benefit from our guidance. Resistance has never succeeded against the order. Accept your place, and prosperity will follow." Behind closed doors, in a secured underground room, Commander Hayes slammed his fist on the table. "They expect us to just roll over and die." He growled at the assembled military leadership. Admiral Sarah Wilson, her gray hair tied back in a tight bun, spoke up. "No, they expect us to submit, which is exactly what we'll pretend to do." That meeting launched Project Iron Dawn. While Earth's governments publicly bowed to the Zentari demands, deep in the Rocky Mountains, humanity prepared its response. Dr. Emily Foster, a brilliant quantum physicist with bright red hair and a determined spirit, led the weapons development team. "The Zentari ships use a basic form of quantum shielding," she explained to Hayes 3 months later. "But they've grown lazy, comfortable. They haven't innovated in centuries. We can do better." The Zentari began their processing of Earth's population. They set up registration centers in major cities, documenting humans for their labor assignment program. Families were told they would be relocated to other worlds for their own benefit. But in the underground facility, work continued day and night. Dr. Foster and her team reverse engineered captured Zentari technology. They found weaknesses, made improvements, and developed something the aliens never expected: a warship that could outmatch their best vessels. Chief Engineer David Cooper, a quiet man with skilled hands and a brilliant mind, cracked the secret of their shield technology. "Their shields only work on one quantum frequency," he explained during a late-night briefing. "We've developed ones that can shift between frequencies. They won't know what hit them." Above ground, the Zentari grew more confident. Their ships patrolled Earth's skies, their soldiers walked human streets, and their officials began setting up their government centers. They never bothered to look deep underground. Lieutenant Lisa Wright, who had been the Navy's best targeting systems expert, developed something special. "Their ships are fast," she said, demonstrating her new system. "But with these quantum-locked targeting computers, we can hit them before they even know they're in our sights." Commander Hayes watched the construction of humanity's first true space battleship through reinforced windows. The U.S. Nemesis took shape in the massive underground hangar, its dark hull absorbing the light. The ship combined Earth's best technology with improved versions of Zentari systems. "They think we're primitive," Hayes said to Dr. Foster as they observed the final touches being added to the ship. "They think we'll just accept their rule because they have better ships." Dr. Foster smiled, her green eyes reflecting the ship's running lights. "They forgot something important about humans. We don't like being told what to do, and we're really good at finding ways to fight back." Time was running out. The Zentari announced their first major population transfer would begin in 1 month. Families would be separated, sent to different worlds as labor for the Order's vast empire. In the early hours of a cold morning, as storm clouds gathered above the Rockies, Commander Hayes received the call he had been waiting for. Admiral Wilson's voice was clear and firm. "They're starting the transfers early. We can't wait any longer. Launch the Nemesis. Show them what humanity can do." Hayes looked at his crew, each face showing the same determination he felt. Dr. Foster at weapons, Cooper at engineering, and Wright at targeting. They had trained for months for this moment. "Prepare for launch," Hayes ordered, settling into his command chair. "It's time to remind the galaxy why you should never underestimate humans." The U.S. Nemesis powered up, its engines humming with energy that made the mountain itself vibrate. Above, through miles of rock, the Centauri ships continued their patrol, unaware that everything was about to change. Humanity's counterattack was about to begin. The underground facility buzzed with activity as the U.S. Nemesis prepared for its first launch. Hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains, the massive cave system had become humanity's best hope for freedom. Chief Engineer David Cooper walked through the ship's engine room, checking every system one final time. "How are the shield upgrades coming along?" he asked his team, wiping sweat from his forehead. The engine room was always hot, filled with the warmth of powerful machines. Anna Martinez, his best engineer, looked up from her workstation. "The new frequency modulators are working better than we hoped. The shields can now switch patterns faster than their weapons can adjust." Cooper smiled. 6 months ago, they had captured a damaged Centauri shuttle during a storm. That single piece of alien technology had taught them more than years of research could have. The aliens had become too confident, too set in their ways. They never thought to improve their designs. Above them, through hundreds of feet of solid rock, Centauri ships continued their regular patrols. They had no idea that humans had not only copied their technology, but made it better. In the weapons lab, Dr. Emily Foster worked with her team on the final calibrations of their quantum cannons. The weapons looked simple from the outside, just smooth, dark metal tubes along the ship's hull. But inside, they held power that could tear through Centauri shields like paper. "Run the simulation again," Foster ordered, her eyes fixed on the computer screen. The test showed a perfect hit, the quantum beam shifting frequencies faster than any alien shield could match. Lieutenant Lisa Wright joined them, carrying new data from her targeting tests. "The computer can predict their movement patterns now," she said, showing Foster the results. "Their ships follow the same basic flight paths every time." They'd gotten lazy. The 3 women shared a knowing look. The Centauri's greatest weakness was their belief that they had nothing left to learn. Commander Hayes called a final meeting in the ship's briefing room. Maps and diagrams covered the walls, showing patrol routes and planetary defenses. "The Centauri have 5 major ships in orbit," he explained to his crew. "They rotate positions every 6 hours. We'll launch during their shift change, when they're most vulnerable." Dr. Foster pointed to the largest enemy ship on the display. "Their flagship, the Order's Pride, carries their regional commander. If we can take it out first, it will throw their whole chain of command into chaos." Cooper spoke up next, projecting a diagram of their shield system. "We've installed backup generators throughout the ship. Even if they get lucky hits, our shields won't fail like theirs do. We've built redundancy into every system." The briefing was interrupted by an urgent message from the surface. Lieutenant Wright's face grew serious as she read it. "Sir, the Centauri are speeding up their processing schedule. They're starting to load humans onto transport ships right now." Hayes looked at his crew. They weren't ready. Not completely. The ship still needed final tests, and the crew needed more training. But sometimes you had to act, ready or not. "How long until the launch tunnel is cleared?" he asked Cooper. 2 hours to move the last equipment and seal the blast doors," Cooper replied. Hayes nodded. "Then we launch in 3. Get your teams ready." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Engineers ran final checks on every system. Weapons crews loaded quantum torpedoes into launch tubes. Medical staff stocked their supplies, hoping they wouldn't be needed but preparing for the worst. In the control room, Lieutenant Wright ran through launch calculations one last time. The tunnel would take them up through the mountain at an angle, emerging 50 miles from the nearest Centauri patrol. They would have maybe 2 minutes before being spotted. Dr. Foster worked with her weapons crews, making sure every gunner understood the new targeting systems. Remember, she told them, their shields can only block one frequency at a time. Our weapons shift frequencies with every shot. Don't give them time to adapt. As the launch countdown began, Commander Hayes stood on the bridge of the U.S. Nemesis. Through the main viewport, he could see the massive tunnel doors beginning to open. The ship hummed with power, every system ready, every crew member at their station. "This is it," he said over the ship-wide comm. "Everything we've worked for comes down to the next few minutes. The Zentari think they know everything about warfare. Let's show them how much they have left to learn." The countdown reached 0. Deep in the mountain, humanity's first true battleship powered up its engines, ready to challenge an empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. The time for hiding was over. The time for fighting back had begun. The U.S. Nemesis rose through the launch tunnel, its engines glowing bright blue in the darkness. Commander Hayes gripped his chair as the ship shuddered against the force of its own power. Outside, rock and steel flashed past the viewports. "Tunnel exit in 30 seconds, Lieutenant Wright announced from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, guiding the massive ship upward. Dr. Foster watched her weapons display closely. All quantum cannons charged and ready, torpedo tubes loaded. A storm raged above the mountains, providing perfect cover for their launch. Lightning flashed across the dark clouds as the ship burst from its hidden exit. The Nemesis rose through the storm, rain streaming across its black hull. "Enemy ships detected," Wright called out. "Nearest patrol is 48 miles east. They haven't spotted us yet." Hayes leaned forward in his command chair. "Take us up slowly. Use the storm clouds for cover as long as possible." Chief Engineer Cooper's voice came through the comm system. "Engines performing perfectly, sir. Shields are at full power." For a few tense minutes, the massive ship climbed through Earth's atmosphere. The storm helped hide them from Zentari scanners, but they couldn't stay hidden forever. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. "We've been spotted," Wright shouted. "2 Zentari patrol ships changing course to intercept." "Hold position," Hayes ordered calmly. "Let them come to us." The Zentari ships approached quickly, their silver hulls shining in the sunlight above the storm. Their commanding officer's voice boomed through the communication system. "Unidentified vessel, you are in restricted space. Power down immediately or be destroyed." Hayes smiled. "Dr. Foster, show them our response." Foster's hands flew across her weapons console. The quantum cannons fired, sending bright beams of energy toward the approaching ships. The beams changed color as they flew, shifting through different quantum frequencies. The Zentari ships tried to raise their shields, but it was useless. The quantum beams cut through their defenses like they weren't even there. One ship's engines exploded, sending it spinning away in flames. The second ship tried to turn and run. "Don't let them warn the others," Hayes commanded. Wright's targeting system locked onto the fleeing ship. Another quantum beam struck its engines, disabling it completely. "More ships approaching," Wright reported. 3 heavy cruisers, including the Order's Pride. The Zentari flagship was massive, easily 4 times the size of the Nemesis. Its hull bristled with weapon ports, and its shields glowed with purple energy. The Zentari commander's face appeared on their main screen. His silver skin reflected the light, and his purple eyes glowed with anger. "So the primitives have learned to copy our technology. How disappointing. Surrender now, and we may spare your lives." Hayes stood up from his chair. "We've done more than copy your technology. We've made it better. Cooper, show them our shields." The Zentari ships opened fire, sending hundreds of energy bolts toward the Nemesis. But Cooper's improved shields held strong, shifting through different frequencies to match each attack. "Our turn," Hayes said quietly. Foster launched a full spread of quantum torpedoes. The glowing projectiles streaked through space, each one targeting a different section of the Zentari flagship. The alien ship's shields flared bright purple as they tried to defend against the attack. But the torpedoes, like the quantum cannons, shifted frequencies as they flew. They passed through the Zentari shields and struck the ship's hull directly. Explosions bloomed across the massive vessel. "Their shields are failing," Wright reported, excitement in her voice. "The other cruisers are pulling back." The Zentari commander's face appeared again, but this time his confidence was gone. "This is impossible. You're nothing but primitives. How did you?" Hayes cut off the transmission. "Target their bridge, Dr. Foster. Let's end this quickly." One more quantum cannon blast struck the Zentari flagship. Its bridge section exploded in a bright flash, and the massive ship began to drift. "Sir," Wright called out, "I'm picking up transmissions between the other Zentari ships. They're calling for reinforcements. They're scared." Hayes nodded. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them Phase 1 is complete, and send everything we have about this battle to every communication channel we can reach. Let the whole galaxy see that the Zentari can be beaten." As the surviving Zentari ships retreated, the crew of the Nemesis felt their victory sink in. They had done it. They had proven that humanity could not only fight back, but win. "Sir," Cooper reported from engineering, "other ships are launching from our hidden bases across Earth. The real war is about to begin." Hayes looked at the retreating Zentari ships through the viewport. "No," he said, "the real war just ended. Now we're fighting for freedom." News of Earth's victory spread through space faster than anyone expected. Commander Rachel Sullivan stood on the bridge of the U.S. Nemesis, watching as messages poured in from across the galaxy. She had taken temporary command while Hayes coordinated with Earth's defense forces. Another transmission from the Proxima system. Lieutenant Wright announced, "Their slave camps are in full rebellion. They're asking for help." The ship's communication room had been busy for days. Alien races that had lived under Zentari control for centuries were suddenly rising up. Earth's success had given them hope. "Show me the latest reports," Sullivan ordered. The main screen lit up with images from different worlds. Slave races breaking their chains, prison camps emptying, Zentari ships being attacked by their own workers. Dr. Foster entered the bridge, carrying new data tablets. "The Zentari are pulling ships from everywhere to attack Earth. They're leaving their other worlds unguarded. They're scared," Cooper added from his engineering station. "They've never faced anything like our quantum weapons before. Their whole empire was built on having the strongest ships." Sullivan smiled. "Not anymore. Right, set course for the Proxima system. Let's help those rebels while the Zentari are busy here." The Nemesis jumped through space, using technology they had improved from the Zentari designs. In minutes, they reached Proxima, where 3 Zentari guard ships were trying to control a massive prison break. "Target their engines only," Sullivan ordered. "We want to free these people, not destroy everything." Foster's quantum cannons fired with perfect accuracy. Each Zentari ship lost engine power but remained intact. On the planet below, thousands of prisoners cheered as their guard support vanished. "Incoming transmission from the rebel leaders," Wright called out. "They're asking to come aboard." The rebel leader was a tall alien named Kar. His blue skin was marked with scars from years of Zentari control. "We heard about Earth's victory," he said, meeting with Sullivan in the ship's conference room. "For centuries, we thought the Zentari couldn't be beaten. You proved us wrong." Sullivan showed him their weapon systems and shields. "The Zentari stopped improving," she explained. "They thought they were perfect. That was their biggest mistake." "We have ships," Qatar said. "Not as good as yours, but many of them. Teach us to fight like you do, and we'll join your battle." Over the next few days, Earth shared its technology with the Proxima rebels. Cooper worked with their engineers, showing them how to improve their shields. Foster taught them about quantum weapons. Wright helped them update their targeting systems. "Sir," Wright called to Sullivan one morning, "long-range sensors are picking up a massive Zentari fleet heading toward Earth, at least 50 ships." Sullivan wasn't worried. "How many rebel ships are ready?" 30 from Proxima. Wright replied. "And more joining from other systems every hour. The whole sector is rising up." Tar's voice came through the comm system. "Commander Sullivan, my fleet is ready. We've installed the quantum weapons. We stand with Earth." The Zentari taught everyone that fighting back was hopeless, Sullivan said to her crew. "Now we've taught them something different. We've taught them to hope." The Nemesis led the rebel fleet back to Earth. When they arrived, they found the Zentari fleet already engaged with Earth's other ships. The battle was huge, filling the space around Earth with explosions and energy beams. "All ships, follow our lead," Sullivan ordered. "Remember your training. Their shields can't handle our quantum weapons. Strike fast and strike hard." The rebel fleet attacked from behind, catching the Zentari by surprise. Ships that had ruled the galaxy for centuries began falling to weapons they had never imagined possible. "Message from Earth Command," Wright announced. "Other rebellions are breaking out across the galaxy. The Zentari are losing control of everything." Sullivan watched as another Zentari ship exploded. They thought controlling the galaxy meant they didn't need to improve. They got comfortable, lazy, but humans never stopped trying to get better. The battle turned into a rout. Zentari ships either surrendered or fled. The rebel fleet cheered with each victory, centuries of fear and anger finally finding release. "Commander," Foster called out, "the Zentari command ship is sending out a general retreat order." "They're running." Sullivan looked at her crew, then at Qatar and the other alien allies on her bridge. "They can run," she said, "but they'll find rebels waiting wherever they go. The galaxy is changing, and we're going to help make it better." The reign of the Galactic Order was ending, and it had started with one Earth ship that dared to fight back. Chief Diplomat William Parker stood in the U.S. Nemesis's main conference room, looking at the most unusual group he had ever seen. 12 alien species sat around the large table, each one recently freed from Zentari control. The ship had become the center of a growing alliance. "Earth welcomes all of you," Parker said, his gray hair neat despite the long hours he'd been working. "We're here to build something new, something better than what the Zentari created." Tatar, the blue-skinned Proximan leader, spoke first. "The Zentari kept us apart for centuries. They didn't want us talking to each other. Now we know why." Commander Hayes stood at Parker's side. After the big space battle near Earth, he had returned to command the Nemesis. "Together, we're stronger than they ever imagined," he said. Dr. Foster entered the room carrying data tablets. "We've prepared technical packages for each of your worlds," she said, passing them out. "Everything we know about quantum weapons and advanced shields. No secrets, no holding back." A tall, red-scaled alien named Vex stood up. "The Zentari never shared technology. They kept us weak on purpose." He picked up one of the tablets. "Why would Earth trust us with such powerful weapons?" Parker smiled. "Because we don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to free it." The meeting went on for hours. Each species had different skills to share. The Proximans knew secret space routes. The Draconids, like Vex, were experts at building fast ships. Others brought knowledge of farming, medicine, or mining. In engineering, Cooper worked with alien engineers, showing them how to improve their ships. "See how the shield frequencies can overlap," he explained. "That's what makes them so strong." Lieutenant Wright trained alien crews on the new targeting systems. "You have to think ahead," she told them. "Predict where the enemy will be, not where they are." The Nemesis had become a floating school, teaching former slaves how to fight their old masters. But it wasn't just about fighting. It was about building trust. "Sir," Wright called to Hayes one day. "Long-range sensors show the Zentari are gathering a huge fleet. Maybe 200 ships." Hayes nodded. "And how many ships does our alliance have now?" Wright checked her screen and smiled. 300 and growing. Ships are still arriving from freed systems. Parker organized another meeting. This time, military leaders from all the allied species gathered to plan. "The Zentari are making their last big push," he explained. They're coming to try to take back control. Qatar pointed to the star map. They've gathered near their home system. They think we'll be afraid to attack them there. They still think like rulers, Hayes said. They expect us to be scared, to run and hide. They haven't learned anything. Dr. Foster brought up detailed scans of the Centauri fleet. Their ships are bigger than ours. But size isn't everything. We're faster, smarter, and our weapons are better. The Alliance fleet gathered near Earth, ships of all sizes and shapes, now all equipped with quantum weapons and improved shields. Former slaves worked together with humans, preparing for the biggest battle in galaxy history. Parker walked through the Nemesis, watching humans and aliens working side by side. In the medical bay, alien doctors shared their knowledge with human doctors. In the cafeteria, different species sat together, learning each other's languages and customs. The Centauri thought they were making the galaxy better by controlling everything, he said to Hayes. But look at this. Real progress comes from working together, not from forcing people to obey. Hayes looked at his crew, now mixed with aliens who had become trusted friends. The Centauri ruled through fear. We'll lead through trust and cooperation. A message came from the Alliance fleet. They were ready. Hundreds of ships, crewed by beings who had been slaves just weeks ago, now prepared to fight for their freedom. All ships report ready, Wright announced. Hayes took his command chair. Parker stood beside him, watching the massive fleet through the viewport. Earth started this, Parker said. But it's not just Earth's fight anymore. Send the order to all ships, Hayes commanded. Set course for the Centauri home system. It's time to end their empire once and for all. The Alliance fleet jumped into space together, hundreds of ships moving as one. The former slaves had become warriors. The oppressed had become liberators. And it had all started with one Earth ship that dared to fight back. The Centauri home system came into view, its 3 suns casting multiple shadows across the Alliance fleet. Commander Hayes stood on the bridge of the U.S. Nemesis, watching as hundreds of ships moved into attack formation. Enemy fleet detected, Lieutenant Wright announced. They've positioned themselves around their home planet. 230 Centauri warships. Dr. Foster's voice was calm as she reported. All ships confirm quantum weapons are charged and ready. Shield frequencies are synchronized across the fleet. The Centauri transmission came as expected. Their supreme commander appeared on screen, his silver skin almost white with rage. You dare to bring slaves to our sacred home. Surrender now, and we may still show mercy. Hayes looked at Qatar and Vex, who now stood proudly on his bridge. We're not slaves anymore. Qatar answered, and we're not afraid of you. All ships, battle formation, Hayes ordered. Remember the plan. Smaller ships target their engines. Larger ships focus on their weapon systems. The Nemesis will lead the attack on their command ships. The space between the fleets lit up with energy beams and quantum torpedoes. The Centauri had bigger ships, but the Alliance fleet had better technology and more determined crews. First wave, attack pattern Delta, Hayes commanded. 100 small ships darted forward, their improved engines making them faster than anything the Centauri had ever seen. The Centauri fleet fired back, their weapons impressive but predictable. Alliance shields shifted frequencies rapidly, just as they had practiced. Most of the shots bounced harmlessly away. They're still using the same tactics they've used for centuries, Wright observed, guiding the Nemesis through the chaos. They haven't learned anything new. Chief Engineer Cooper's voice came through the comm. All ships report shields holding at 90% or better. The improvements are working perfectly. In the middle of the battle, Foster spotted something important. Sir, their flagship shields are different. They've tried to copy our frequency-shifting technology. Hayes smiled. But they've only had weeks to work on it. We've had months to perfect it. Target their flagship. Show them the difference between copying technology and understanding it. The Nemesis moved forward, its quantum cannons firing in complex patterns that the Centauri shields couldn't match. The flagship's defenses failed section by section. Around them, the battle turned into a clear victory. Alliance ships disabled Centauri engines and weapons with surgical precision. Former slaves who had once feared these mighty warships now flew circles around them. "Sir," Wright called out, excitement in her voice. "The Centauri fleet is breaking formation. Many ships are trying to retreat." But Qatar had planned for this. Alliance Group 3, move in. Hidden ships appeared from behind one of the system's moons, cutting off the Centauri escape routes. "Their flagship is dead in space," Foster reported. "Their shields are gone, weapons offline." Hayes stood up. "Send the message to all Centauri ships. Surrender now, and we'll show them mercy they never showed us." One by one, Centauri ships powered down their weapons. On their home planet, seeing their mighty fleet defeated, civil authorities began surrendering to rebel groups that had been hiding underground. The Supreme Commander's face appeared on screen one last time. "How?" he asked, his pride broken. "How did primitives defeat us?" Parker stepped forward to answer. "Because we never stopped learning, never stopped trying to improve. You thought being powerful meant you didn't need to change. That was your biggest mistake." The battle was over in less than 3 hours. The mighty Centauri fleet, which had ruled the galaxy for centuries, had fallen to an alliance led by their former slaves. "Damage report," Hayes called out. "Alliance casualties minimal," Wright reported. "Most ships report only minor damage. Our improved shields made the difference." Foster added, 15 Centauri ships destroyed. The rest have surrendered or are disabled. Hooper's voice came through again. "Sir, rebels on the Centauri homeworld report their government is surrendering. They're asking for Alliance peacekeepers." Hayes looked at his crew, humans and aliens working together, each bringing their own strengths to the team. "Send the word to Earth and all allied worlds," he ordered. "The galactic order has fallen." Cheers erupted across the fleet. Ships that had once been kept apart by Centauri rule now flew together in victory formation. The age of empire was over. "And now," Parker said quietly, "the real work begins. Building a free galaxy will be harder than defeating the Centauri." Hayes nodded. "But we'll do it together." That's what they never understood. Real strength comes from working together, not from ruling over others. The Alliance fleet moved into orbit around the Centauri homeworld, not as conquerors, but as liberators. A new chapter in galaxy history was about to begin. 1 year after the Great Battle, the U.S. Nemesis floated in orbit above a new space station. The station, named Unity Point, had been built by all the allied species working together. It was huge, shaped like a wheel with spokes reaching out from its center, each section designed to make different species feel at home. Commander Hayes walked through the station's main hall, heading to the first meeting of the Galactic Council. The hall's walls showed scenes from the rebellion, including the first flight of the Nemesis from Earth. So much had changed since that day. "Still feels strange, doesn't it?" Dr. Foster asked, walking beside him. "Being here as builders instead of warriors." Hayes nodded. "Better this way, though. The quantum cannons haven't fired in months." They entered the council chamber, a large round room with seats for representatives from every free world. Even the Centauri were there, though they no longer ruled anyone but themselves. Chief Diplomat Parker stood at the center podium. His hair had more gray now, but his eyes were bright with hope. 1 year ago, he began, "We were enemies and slaves. Today, we meet as equals." Qatar, now head of the Proximan delegation, spoke next. "The Centauri taught us to fear each other. Earth taught us to work together. That is the greater lesson." In the station's engineering section, Cooper worked with a mixed team of human and alien engineers. They were designing new ships, not for war, but for exploration. The ships would carry quantum drives that could reach further than any before. "See how the Draconid power systems work with our shield design," he explained to his team. "Together, they're better than either one alone." Lieutenant Wright had her own team now too. They ran the station's defense systems, not to control, but to protect. She trained crews from every species, sharing knowledge freely. Another trade ship requesting docking, she called out, from a system we haven't met before. They heard about our alliance and want to join. The Zentari were changing too. Their new leader, a young commander who had surrendered during the final battle, spoke to the council. "We forgot how to grow," she admitted. "We thought being powerful meant never having to change. We were wrong." Parker led the council in its first major vote, the creation of the Galactic Defense Fleet. Unlike the old order's military, this fleet would protect freedom, not control it. The U.S. Nemesis would serve as its first training ship. "Every crew will be mixed," Hayes explained to the council. "Every ship will carry the best of what each species can offer. Together, we're stronger." In the station's garden level, Foster showed a group of children from different species how the quantum technology worked. The children played together, not caring about their different colors or shapes. "The real victory," she told Hayes later, "isn't in the battles we won. It's in this, watching former enemies' children play together." The council's final act that day was to establish the Galactic Science Academy. All species would share their knowledge freely. The first project would be a joint mission to explore beyond known space. "Who will command this mission?" Tar asked the council. Hayes stood up. "The Nemesis volunteers. Our crew already knows how to work together. We'll show the way forward, just like we did in the war." That evening, Hayes stood at a viewport, watching ships come and go from the station. Vessels of all shapes and sizes moved peacefully through space. Trade ships, science vessels, and family transports flew alongside the new defense fleet ships. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Parker joined him. "Hard to believe a year ago, this was all Zentari territory." "The real test is still ahead," Hayes said. "Keeping peace is harder than winning a war. But we're ready for it," Foster added, joining them, "because we're not doing it alone." A small ship flew past the viewport, its hull showing symbols from 3 different species. It was one of the new exploration vessels, crewed by beings who would have been enemies a year ago. "That's our real victory," Hayes said, pointing to the ship. "Not defeating the Zentari, but building something new together." The U.S. Nemesis would launch the next day, heading out to explore unknown space. Its crew, once just humans fighting for Earth's freedom, now carried the hopes of many worlds. As the station's 3 suns set, casting golden light across its gleaming surface, Hayes thought about how it all started, with one ship, built in secret beneath Earth's mountains. They had fought for freedom, but found something more valuable: unity. The galaxy was entering a new age, and this time, no one would face the future alone.